Hello,
Hey everyone.
and welcome to our live Friday
Q&A.
Q&A for members. Um, let's just see if you can hear what we're saying. It would be such a
Yeah.
pity if we're sitting and answering questions for 3 hours and nobody can hear
Nobody
us.
can hear it.
Um,
A little thumbs up from somebody would be great.
yeah. Dun, 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 dun. Anyways,
It's not a good sign.
It's not a good sign.
No.
Nobody can hear us.
No.
I'm assuming
That's going to
people
be a
can hear.
really good silent meditation though.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. We're gonna do a short meditation to start. And since we're in the Eight-fetter on the channel at the moment, it's going to be an Eight-fetter meditation, just sitting with the thought he's guiding us into. And then we have had a lot of
Thank you, Leva.
yay, good, thank you. And then we have had questions on Discord. If you go to our Discord channel, there is a Friday live Q&A where you can ask questions for people that are not members of the channel or who are members but can't participate today. But we're going to prioritize the questions that are from the members that are here on the channel right now. And we got a lot of questions.
We do.
So would you mind just giving us a 10-minute?
Yeah.
Because we're working with the Eight-fetter at the moment, which is probably the feather that comes with most caveats. But let's just sit a moment and collect ourselves and get ready for the questions today. So make yourself comfortable. Close your eyes.
Take a nice, slow, deep breath. And on the exhalation, let go of any expectations, any beliefs, anything that seems to be clouding your judgment right now. Let go of any thoughts that come through the mind. It's okay if they're there, but we don't need to believe them or listen to them or pay attention to them. Just let them float through like clouds through a vast open sky. Take a moment to tune in to the feelings inside the body. Feel the sensations of pressure on the chair, of a heartbeat, of blood moving through the veins, perhaps a feeling of buzzing, tingling, energy, muscle tension, maybe pain, whatever is there. Just notice it with absolute equanimity as another arising set of sensations. And see if you can lose any ownership of those sensations. It's not your pain or your tension or your pressure. It is simply absolute raw sensation appearing somewhere that might start to feel less and less like a body. Notice if you feel what seems to be the boundary of skin, or the boundaries of the mental ideas of where your body begins and ends. And let that too go. Notice that these sensations are happening absolutely in the middle of nothing. In the same way that you could gaze in front of you with your peripheral vision wide, taking in the full panorama from side to side and top to bottom, I would like you to feel that same panoramic peripheral attention spread out to take in the totality of your felt experience. Notice how far you can reach the expanses of your felt sense field. Is it really limited to the skin and the contents inside of it? Or can you let go of that artificial boundary and just feel the open expansiveness where there is no inside or outside, and there is no definition of you compared to anything else that you might feel? Notice the unending nature of this. What you took you to be is simply replaced by absolutely everything that appears. There is no centrality to this space. There's not even a reflective awareness of what is showing up. It is simply all appearing all at once. If mental images arise, trying to locate a you or maintain a sense of objectivehood, just allow those to float away and be with the raw, expansive sensory field, all around in 6 sweeping directions. No end and no beginning, no locality. No referential thought which could possibly create a you separate from anything else. Relax every bit of striving to feel or attain something special. Just let whatever is here be and surrender into that open, expansive oneness. gradually come back to the space that you're in. You can maintain this open spaciousness if you would like, or if it feels too much, then come back to the sensations of your feet on the floor, your back on the chair. Ground down, keeping the lessons learned from the time spent in that space. These are both simply ways of being, and that one is not exclusive. One is not really different from the other. And they are both available to you at any time, any day. When you're ready, take another deep breath and open your eyes.
Oh, that was wonderful.
Thank you, babe.
There's something so powerful in sitting together in meditation. There's really, we should do more of that, because we do sit. We should go live and sit more with, because don't you agree that there's something so powerful in sitting together? It's also what we experienced on the retreat, that holding space and just creating that energy together is just wonderful. Oh, amazing. Thank you. Thank you
so much, Leila.
That is amazing.
That's
Thank
incredible.
you.
Thank you.
We are so grateful for all donations that you guys give. We're so grateful for that. Thank you so much. It's what is making all this possible.
And Kate said, yay, group meditation. Thank you. Good to have you here, Kate. And Patty said that this meditation actually helped answer part of her question.
Oh, amazing.
So that was great. We were going to get to that too, but wonderful.
Yeah, I asked Patty if you could ask live on Tuesday.
Huh?
I asked Patty if you could ask.
Sure.
So just the practical information before we go on. This week, as you know, we have entered about the Eight-fetter, and I think it's the video with the most caveat of half an hour video, 25 minutes is warnings. I think something like that. And we continue in the Eight-fetter, as you know. And the Eight-fetter is the reason why I'm so careful when I talk about it, is that it is about dissolving beliefs and having beliefs, having faith, having hope, having the feeling of a doer and free will and all of that. It's wonderful, and it's a beautiful place to be. Being in that love bubble, in that bubble of bliss, it's just absolutely wonderful. And you can stay there. You can stay there. There's nothing wrong in staying there for as long as you want. There's actually no reason to work any further until you start to experience the loss of that state. So what normally happens is that you are in the bliss state and you have that expansive feeling and feel love for everyone, and suddenly you oscillate towards fear or doubt or anger, shame, guilt, whatever. And then you're trying everything you do to get back, everything you can to get back to that bliss state again. And then you're there for a while, and then you go back into the doubt. If that is where you are, then the Eight-fetter is really useful to work with. If you are in the bliss state and it's just wonderful, then there's no need for you to work with the Eight-fetter. Stay there as long as you can and harvest as much as you can from there, because there's really something to be said about being in that open expansiveness. There are so many lessons to be learned by being there, which are useful for when you work with the Eight-fetter or ninth or the 10th-fetter. I also want to say that there's nothing wrong in completely skipping the Eight-fetter and just going to 9 and 10 if that feels right for you. It's not linear at all. There's nothing in life that is linear. So you can just do that. But if you work with the Eight-fetter, we're looking into belief, which is a big deal. A big deal. There's so many things that we can unpin the eye, and we can stay in that open space, but we still have that feeling of breathing with the universe and being part of cosmos and all that. And what we're pointing to in the Eight-fetter is that even that is a belief. Even that can be looked into and dissolved. So the lesson that is coming up on Monday, it's taking you through that experience and looking deeper into that. And then we have the inquiry on Tuesday, where you're so welcome to come and live and ask questions. And I asked Patty if it was okay that we wait with her questions so she can ask us live on Tuesday, and we do that. So that was the news.
Excellent. Well done. Well said. I saw Nils said that they sent a question on Discord, so I just read that one.
Okay.
I'm actually wondering if I should open up my computer so it'd be easier to monitor the Discord things rather than switching back and forth.
I have taken a lot of Discord questions.
But I figure if these are members who are here live, it's only because they're too long to write in the chat.
Yeah.
So if
I
people
get that.
are writing in things that are too long, I'll be right back.
Okay. Should I start reading the first one?
Sure. Or like literally just be a second. 3 more seconds of meditation.
Can you ever be waiting? Look, I made a video about that a long time, about 100 years
it's like
ago.
A greatest hit by this point.
Yeah. I was standing on the train station in Copenhagen, waiting for a train, and was thinking that, can you ever be waiting? Is that even a thing? And obviously it's tapping into that 7th fetter of the delusion of time, that of course you can't be waiting ever, because that means that you're weaving all of those snapshots, individual snapshots together into a 1 minute wait, 2 minute wait, 3 minutes wait. In reality, you can't be waiting. There's just this right now. And even if a train was supposed to depart, 10 past, and now it's a quarter past, you're still not waiting for the train. You're still not waiting for it to depart. There's just this right now. It was a video posted way back. Yeah. Anyways.
Oh, there. I couldn't find the Friday questions. Sorry.
So,
okay.
Should we start with this one first?
Yes.
This one is quite quick, actually. It was Andreas who asked me. We had a back and forth on my YouTube channel. I can recommend you to read the comment section on both our YouTube channels, because we engage in everyone who writes on the channels. We engage and reply to.
Thank you so much, Irene. Before you do this.
Irene, thank you. Thank you. That is
so generous.
Yeah, so generous. It really means a lot to us. It really helps a lot.
It helps.
Yeah.
Would you like me to read?
Yeah, please. So I had a back and forth with Andreas, and this is the final question he asked, where I thought it's easier just to answer in person.
Thank you for these encouraging words. Every step had these phases. 1, confusion and irritation and sadness for what is ending. 2, first glimpses of the new territory, curiosity and playfulness. 3, with time and practice finally fully arriving. So this will need its time, but I am still a bit impatient at times. But all good. Thanks a lot. Looking forward to your next video.
And what I just want to point to is that in the back and forth that we had, it was on the I Am Conceit video about the Eight-fetter, where Andreas, we had different experiences and felt that he was like falling out of bliss and then picking himself up by the bootstraps and then getting back into it, and have this feeling of like 3 levels that he's going through to get back into the bliss. And it's obviously it helps a lot if you're watching the 7th fetter, if you kind of backtrack a bit and watch the 7th fetter, partly about the delusion of time, that things are not, horizontally, they're vertically. But also that unpinning, that for having that experience that you're going through steps, that there's a first step and then there's a second step and then there's a third step. There needs to be someone that are moving forward in time. And it helps a lot doing the unpinning, so that sensation of an I that is moving. And I know that you're not talking about the small I, the ego I, the self I, the first fetter I. I know what you mean with it, that there's that sensation of something around here that is kind of like expanding and relaxing more into it and all that. But it is helpful if even that can be unpinned. If you unpin it, watch the unpin video where even that is dissolved.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, very similar to what you just said, just being aware if you have expectations based on, we're pattern seeking creatures. And so it's easy to look back and say, okay, well, in the past, I would experience this sort of trepidation and fear, and then there would be like these subtle tastes, and then I would start to open up to it, and then it kind of solidify in this new stage. And you very likely have had experiences that have kind of followed that. But notice if there is a clinging to create that sort of pattern, so that there is some sense of security and predictability to this, so that it's kind of being used as like a self-consoling tool to be like, well, I'm really uncomfortable now, but I know in the past I've gone through to a next stage where I'll be slightly less uncomfortable, and I'll start to see some things, and then I'll get more and more confident in the path, and then it'll be fine. So just notice what is actually happening here now, without trying to put it into a greater context where it seems like there is some sort of okayness only by virtue of the expectation that this is part of a predictable pattern.
Yeah.
And just being true to however things are showing up right now. And if there is some sort of curiosity that's tinged with fear, then just work with that fear, as opposed to just waiting for it to kind of go off on its own. Just see, why is there a fear about it? Why is there some sort of trepidation here?
Yeah. And the thing you pointed to about expectation is also really, really important, because that is making it into that horizontal long stretch thing. And the moment you have expectation about an outcome, you are immediately a victim for that outcome to be in a certain way. What if stage 1 happens but stage 2 doesn't? So all of a sudden you are in that victimhood right away, instead of just staying with what is present in whatever stage you are at now, whatever is arising in you right now, instead of having the boxes of stages, just being with that present awareness that is present right now. Because if you're rushing to a stage 2 because it's so much more comfortable, then it's a bit like we have talked a lot about with the fetters, that you're rushing from fetter 1 through 2 through 3 and up to 4 and 5 because it's much more fun. So there's kind of like a missing important nuggets in that process that you would need to go back and pick up anyway.
Exactly. And the whole idea of it just helps to prolong that sense of a narrative progression, where one thing does lead directly, predictably to the next, and we can put it all into very tight little boxes.
And that nothing in life is like that.
No.
Nothing is linear, and nothing is solid like that.
Just notice things as they arise, and that is the only thing that is arising right now. There's a moment of fear, there's a moment of acceptance, there's a moment of elation. That is all that is here, and there's no need to put it into some grand scheme where you can see this whole arching narrative like it's in your own film. It's just one particular scene.
Love that. Okay. If you scroll back on Discord, then there's a Cleona up there. Way back, if you go up to the next video, a bit longer.
There's a Cleona here.
No, it's there. That one.
Okay. Oh yeah. Okay. Cleona asked, I know giving advice is not advised, but one should go for a walk and all that. And yes, we all have our own inner advice monster. But yesterday I spoke to a friend, and he was so ready to hear about how to end suffering. He was plagued by thoughts about success and comparing himself to others with a moving target of success. All ideas, of course. And I sent him some videos on thoughts in the first fetter, and he was overjoyed and excited. So isn't it fun to also share helpful resources? For me, that comes kind of in the bucket of advice. I'm so confused. I am careful when I give advice, that it is wanted, not unsolicited. So any tips on this topic would be great on the next Q&A. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's really good.
It's a really good question. It's a really good question. there are so many caveats when it comes to advice, because you can never give any advice to anyone ever. You're only talking about yourself. You have no other point of reference than your own bullshit backpack. So whatever you think you see he needs, and whatever advice you think he needs and that you're giving, it's based on your own experience. And I had a little back and forth with Karen on the channel, where she said, "So hang on, does that mean that my therapist is only giving advice to herself, not to me?" And in its very crudest form, yes, because you can't do anything else. You are not capable of experiencing anything from the vantage point of anyone else. Even empathy that you evoke in yourself is happening in you.
Mm-hmm.
It's empathy towards you,
Mm-hmm.
that you have entered that room in the house, that gives you an expansiveness. So when another person come with that issue, you can empathize with it, because you know how it feels for you to be in that situation, and it's that part you're empathizing with. So you're projecting yourself onto the other, and that is that projection that you're giving advice to. And I think that's why the Buddha was very, very adamant with when he talked about advice, that it needs to be helpful, it needs to be kind, and it needs to be timely. Is it now? So it needs to be helpful. And if you really ask the question, this advice that I want to give right now, is it helpful? You never know if it's helpful, because the ears are not sitting on you. If the other one, if the person you're talking to has tears in the ears, they can't hear what you're saying. So the first one is always, I always love that answer that the Buddha gave, because it's never, you never ever know if it's helpful.
Yeah.
Then there's the question, is it kind? And again, it might come from a kind place, but how many times have you in your life tried to be really kind towards somebody and they took it completely the wrong way? It came from love and kindness, and it was taken as mockery or arrogance or something like that, because it wasn't about you. Whatever you say can only be received by the other person where the other person is. So even when you do something with kindness, it might not be received as kindness. So still, we are back to you. You can never ever know if anything you do is received with kindness. You can do it with kindness, but you don't know if it's received with kindness. And the last point is it timely? Is it now? Is this the most important and crucial point for that person right now? And again, 10-fetter. You do not know. You do not know. So I always love that point, that it's really that, no, you cannot give any advice. You can only advise towards yourself. But this is said in a Q&A where Todd and I are sitting and answering questions. The arrogance and the hubris and I am completely aware of it. So yeah. You go.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, that was so comprehensive. It was amazing. The only things that I would add, sort of variations of that maybe, are to notice where that drive to give advice is coming from. Like you said, it can be coming from a place of kindness, but is it really truly completely from a kind place? And it might be, but just be honest with yourself. Is it coming because you are trying to fix the other person's situation for them? Is it because you feel like it puts you in any sort of better light to have the solution for somebody else? Is it because you feel a sense of pride and goodness in you for doing something nice and fixing somebody else?
Or it's painful to see people suffer.
Or it's painful.
It's so painful to see people suffer. I have experienced that a lot with friends and family, that they're really truly suffering, and I wish that I could say something that so they don't suffer anymore, which you obviously never can, because it's not. Suffering doesn't need any words; it needs space. Go.
So it's okay. So being aware of really where your motivation is coming from is so important. And then the other part of that is to be completely without attachment to the outcome of it. Whether they take your advice or don't, you have to make sure that you are absolutely free to just let the words come out, let them be taken, as you said. They might be taken with utter gratitude, or they might be taken as an absolute insult and the person might never speak to you again. But any place on that spectrum, you have to be willing to just have it come out and then have them do with it what they will. So as long as there's no attachment in you for it, that's a much better place to be.
It's also
everything else.
But it's also about the part about expectation that we just talked about, and that is a bit what is happening here with the Q&A and with the inquiry groups. That we have no expectation, we have nothing tied into you guys doing anything. There's an absolute freedom, and space, and you can come and ask the same question over and over and over and over and over for the next 16 years. It's completely fine, because we know that we cannot say anything that has any importance in your life at all. That is not possible. We can say something at a point that is the right point, where you are in your causes and conditions, that is just the perfect storm, the perfect thing that just happens at just the right place, and then you just give us credit, which is not really fair, because you have done so many things in your life to be in a position. So what we say, you don't have tears in your ears, there's no obstruction at all, and what we say clicks with something in you that might not have anything to do with what we say. So many times when I listen to Todd's talks that he does, I come out and I go like, you said the most amazing thing, and then I quote and he goes like, I didn't say that. I'm pretty sure I didn't say that. But what I heard was like pure brilliance from that beautiful person there, So it's also about that. And also why you can never take credit. If you give somebody an advice or help someone, you can never ever take credit, because it's not you. You did not do anything. They were just in a position to receive whatever they heard, whatever they thought they heard you say, they were ready to receive.
And it was a good point, Leela. Thank you for that. There's a difference between responding to a question and giving unsolicited advice. And there is a difference between giving unsolicited advice and somebody just asking you for your opinion on something or advice on something. And still, it's still relevant to notice, though, where the push to give that advice comes from, and how certain you are about the utility of it, that it's might be useful for you. And that's where I think the skillful part comes in too, to recognize, like, is this only because it has been useful for me, and do I think this is going to be the balm for everybody that I meet, or is it something where you really have to take into consideration where that particular person is coming from to the best of your limited understanding, and then kind of direct the advice appropriately from there. But again, it's all a guess. It's all based off of our own limited understanding of any person or situation. And
and also always be really aware of if any advice you give is supposed to soothe the other person or soothe you.
Really good.
Okay.
All right. Okay, well, that's a really quick one, I think. Rough Cuts asked, starting with fetter work, really loving this. When you say use a guide, do you recommend Liberation Unleashed?
Yes.
Generally speaking,
yes.
However, you can't really go in asking for guides who do fetter work. Some do, but it's kind of tricky in that way. So they do work with what we would call the first fetter, but it's not really. Not all of the guides use the fetter model or relate to the fetter model. And some guides do have different viewpoints and starting points on the whole spiritual process. So if you find somebody picks you up that you don't resonate with, and that you just feel like they're kind of coming from a place of belief, or that they're adding something more to it and trying to get you to believe something that you don't want to take on as a new thought or anything like that, you can always feel free to ask for a different guide. You can go through as many guides as you need to find one who you really resonate with. So there's no obligation just because somebody picks you up to stay with them.
And I also want to say that in Discord, we have a lot of people also that are present here now that actually are guides in LU. So you can also ask in Discord if there's any LU guides in there that would like to pick you up and like to work with you. And then what you do is that you go to LU, you're gonna write the application, and then they're gonna pick you up right away. That's another way to do it. Or you can go to one of Vince's meetings. He has a lot of guides there, and they usually, the guides that are there, they know that he's, dabbling with the feathers. So some of them are also open to work with you while you're working with the feathers here. But I would say if you want a LU guide to work with the feathers, then ask in Discord, Discord channel, if there's any guides there.
Yeah.
That would like to pick you up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's
Then we have another one.
okay. So next up was
next one was it's also in Discord.
It is, but I figured it's you had them like copied in here. That
I
were
did.
A little bit more concise.
So prepared.
You are so prepared.
That was Cleona. The next one is
Rowena.
Wonderful Rowena.
Hi, Todd and Pernilla. My husband was released from his suffering with ALS at the end of August, and so therefore I've been released from my role as carer, to which, first of all, we just have to say...
Send you so much love.
Yeah.
Send you so much love. Yeah, when we read it, we really just took a pause to send both you and your husband so many loving thoughts.
Yeah, I know it's been a very long path, and knowing what it's like, so sorry, and then also I know how many mixed emotions come with that kind of a situation. So I also, just before we get into answering your actual question, I also just want to say, be kind with yourself regarding any emotions that come up. There can be issues of when you've been caring for somebody for a long time and you've seen them suffering for a long time. There can be a sort of relief after they're gone, and then we can feel guilty about the feelings of relief that come from being in that situation. So regardless of what comes up, I just want to say, be very kind and gentle to yourself, because they're just emotions that have been suppressed and not given their chance to be fully experienced during the times when you didn't have the bandwidth, perhaps, to fully explore the range of emotions that you were feeling, because there just wasn't space for that. So now a lot of things might start to come up, and it's perfectly okay. It's perfectly normal. There's no judgment to be had in any of that.
Yeah. You asked the question in a moment, but I also just want to build on that and say that when we are in a position of caring for somebody in the way that you did with your husband and you did with your mom, things are happening so quickly, and there's like one trauma experience after another, and then you might have a breather, but you are not in any space to deal with all that trauma, and you will need space afterwards to process all of it. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Back to the question. The last few months were very stressful and actually traumatic in various ways. As I slowly rest and relax, I'm often confronted with some situation that comes to mind that has not been digested. I use that word because literally I start coughing and retching as a body response to the memory. Sometimes I've tried to go into the sensation rather than letting the automatic response take place, and I can feel a kind of contraction all the way down from my throat to my stomach. Very curious about this. It feels quite cleansing afterwards. Would love to hear any thoughts or comments.
Yeah. But I obviously would like for you to answer that. I just want to say a quick thing about that part, because that part is the same no matter what trauma you're dealing with. If you're being forceful in any way, the body will react with vomiting and shaking and all of that, and you need to create loving kindness towards that as well. You're in no rush to sort this out. And this goes for everybody that are working with childhood trauma, or if you're doing any kind of embodiment exercises that is releasing all that, please do not be in any rush. It has been stored in the body for so long. Don't be in any rush to force it out in any way. And I also just want to say that vomiting and shaking and having fever and pain moving about in the body, it's absolutely normal.
Yeah. You really cannot predict how any of this will play out for you. As I think most people who are on here probably have heard before, I was a long-time caregiver for my mom. So, and then when she passed away, it was it, the range of emotions that came in were quite unexpected and unpredictable. And so rather than going into like some kind of deep maudlin depression or something afterwards, I actually had incredible amounts of energy. It was like almost being in a manic state for months, where I was only needing like 4 hours of sleep, and I was like cleaning out the house, and I was just doing all this stuff and donating things. And it was just like I would be on the treadmill for hours a day and out walking and like sorting out the house. It was like boundless energy. It was like something that had been repressed for so long was just like let out, and all of a sudden the whole mood was like that. But the grieving process and the whole process of coming to terms with these things is so unpredictable and takes much longer than the short amount of time that we thought it was. It took like a solid year before I started getting some of the grief repercussions that, some other stages that had shown up. And essentially, for 2 years afterwards, I had the fortune to be able to not really have to do anything at that point. That was like really, I wasn't really working. I started guiding on LU and different things like that, and basically just walking many, many hours a day and meditating a lot. And it was great because it really is, in terms of doing this kind of work, it really opened up things to where I had so much time to go into it and was really exploring everything deeply. And because I was doing the kind of practice with the fetters, it was just so, it was so impactful. But still, everything everything was moving on its own in ways which I never would have anticipated. And it took 2 years before things really started to settle down and come to some sort of new normality, where, um, you know, life took on different shapes and could go in different directions. But I really needed that time to just completely decompress and recuperate and recharge and, um, let go of so much of the stuff that had been held on and repressed from all of those years. And don't be surprised if you go through similar or equally erratic kind of ways of being for a while. There's no pressure to suddenly normalize and come back to a regular life as most people would see it in any sort of quick fashion. It is so unpredictable, and just allow it to be. Just take care of yourself. This is really a time for you to heal your own needs, all the things that you haven't been able to do for yourself. You might feel like it's almost wrong to do that. It might feel really odd to be able to go to bed when you want to go to bed, to go out when you want to go out, to do all the things that come up without having this other layer of responsibility on your shoulders, to make what decision is right for you in that moment. That could feel really weird and kind of wrong for a while, and just be okay with that and just be kind to whatever shows up.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah. But my heart goes out to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will also say reach out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're here.
Yeah. Yeah, beautiful. Thank you.
Oops. Sorry. That's a really big one. Eva wrote in, "Hi, I have suicidal ideation because I didn't change and my life is falling apart. I became somebody else. What can I do?"
Oh, goodness.
That's a really hard question to answer in this kind of format where we don't
definitely
have any interactions back and forth.
I would say in wherever you are, you need to reach out to someone. Right now. Don't think, oh, I can sort this out on my own. When we have suicidal ideations, we need some kind of anchor that is, right next to us. So reach out to a suicide line or a therapist if you already have one. You need to have an anchor by your side that can kind of get you back into normalcy and open your eyes to what is actually going on in your direct experience right now, and that is not thought.
Yeah.
And that is almost impossible to do in writing or to do in a format like this.
Yeah.
And you need somebody that you can reach out to day and night,
Yeah.
with what you're working on. So I would say this is not the I'm happy you're here,
Yeah.
but this is not the format. Please reach out to somebody that
Yeah.
can support you, can help you in the area that you're in.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. We never want to try to bypass anything by means of spiritual practice. If you have a history of depression, anxiety, suicidal ideation, things like that, we can effectively just distract ourselves from them for a while by having these other experiences. But it's not getting to the root cause of those emotions. And so we recommend doing whatever you have to do, whether it's therapy or, reaching out to anybody necessary in order to be able to heal those parts that the spiritual practice might not actually be solving. They're just kind of covering over. And if some of it is coming from negative reactions to spiritual practice, there are also groups that specifically work with people who have adverse experiences to the spiritual path.
Mm.
And I'm trying to think the name of, if somebody has it there, if they could post it. It starts with a C. Won't blank on it, but there is a group that you can reach out to who specializes specifically in adverse reactions to the spiritual practice.
And I just want to say that you say that that you have suicidal ideations because I didn't change my life. We're not really either supporting the idea of change. We support more that you stay with what is. And again, I don't think that is helpful for you right now, especially if you do not have anyone by your side when you do it, because the staying with what is looking into the depth of depression and the depth of anxiety and the depth of all the thoughts that are giving you the idea that there's something wrong with you. There's like a foundation in a belief that there's something wrong with you, that you're not okay the way that you are, and that's why you want to change. Where we're talking about that you don't have to change. You're wonderful. You don't have to change anything, but it might not be what you actually need to look into at this stage. So I would recommend cognitive psychology is really, really good for looking into where you're at right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I forgot what I was going to say. Yeah, and just be aware that some of these practices that we're doing, and this is why we have so many caveats on here, is that if you have any underlying mental health conditions, they can really exacerbate some of those problems and leave you even in an even more destabilized, derealized kind of a situation. And so we don't want to make anything worse by doing more of these practices in an attempt to try to undo some of the instability or the mental discomfort that's already there. That's why it can be helpful using CBT or something else to get to that from a different perspective, which is still complementary, but without hopefully in a more grounded way that will keep you from going further into distress.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you had a lot of that in your life, but I don't think we should poke that bear right now.
Yeah, no. I mean,
it's too fresh for
yeah,
Fiverr right now to look at that. So I think we wait for that.
yeah.
Okay. Then there's of course. So that was Marina.
Amit.
Amit.
Hey, Amit.
Hi, Amit.
Hey, guys. can you talk a bit about how mind is constantly focused on the body in respect to creating something out of nothing? This has been coming up for me, and I feel there's a deeper access to Fetter 8 openness if I focus on mind's insistence on constantly thinking that there is a body present. It will help me further unpin from this local experience. Thanks. And then, by the way, the 10-minute Fetter 7 morning meditation was awesome. So
I know,
thank
it's
you for
wonderful,
that.
and we're definitely doing more of those.
Yeah.
I don't really understand the question. Could you start out?
Of course. So it actually was something, I think, hopefully, if you got to hear the meditation in the beginning of this, I think maybe partially relates to that. The idea is that we always have this internal mental map of a body that we're acting through. So when we're doing practices where we're feeling the sensations in the body or feeling the spaciousness of the body, we often have a mental image, unless you have aphantasia, in which case I'm sure it must show up in some other way. You have this mental image that probably has something to do with your face, your body, the posture, with a specific body part. If you are focused specifically, say, on your right knee or your left foot, you are probably seeing an image in your mind of a knee and a foot. The tricky part is that they are not necessarily your knee or your foot. They are not necessarily representative of the body that is actually sitting here, but they're a very convenient placeholder for the brain to be navigating, to know where certain parts of it are located in space, to find that the head is up here and the feet are down there, and that it's not vice versa, so that when you're tumbling through the ocean or something, you know which way is up, and that's why it can be really disorienting, because the brain can't tell that. Same here, where we're using that constantly to kind of locate ourselves in space. Where it's relevant, like what Amit was saying with the seventh fetter of making something out of nothing, is that we are constantly taking the sensations that are arising, and like I tried to hopefully have you experience a little bit of in this meditation this morning, it's feeling that the sensations can be there, but the sensations don't necessarily correlate or correspond to certain places in the body or to certain body parts. If the mind is overlaying that with an image, it helps to create that cohesion. But in reality, you can focus specifically on those sensations with no additional um, mental map corresponding them to anything. And so feeling just the sensations without that attachment to thought or to the thought images allows you to feel way beyond the boundaries of what you take yourself to be based on the limitations of that mental image.
Yeah. And it's also because the mind is creating a mental image of, for example, if you look at your foot and then you close your eyes and you think of your foot, how it just looked, then like Todd said, it might not even be your own foot that you can see. It might be a completely random foot that shows up. But then we have this idea that when we then, if you feel into your foot right now, that it's supposed to feel foot shapes. The tingling sensation is supposed to feel foot shaped, and that is why the eight-fetter can be so scary to work with. Because if you just close your eyes right now, close your eyes and feel into the tingling sensation that you have in your feet. Hopefully by now, or probably by now, you can feel that the tingling sensation that you feel is not foot shaped at all. It's just a tingling sensation. And if you really, really slow down and look into the sensation, it's not even in the location of where you think your feet are. And this is where a lot of people, when they work with the eight-fetter, that it starts to get scary. Because right now you don't have feet. There's just tingling sensation happening in an open void of an open space. There are no feet to be located anywhere. You do not know in this moment with your eyes closed that you actually have feet. And when you do meditations like this, all the tingling sensations that you have in the entire body can be dissolved in the same way, which means that you end up with dissolving the entire illusion of a body, because you only have a body when you open your eyes and look at it. With your eyes closed and in a snapshot of an experience right now, you do not know that you even have a body. Okay, make a deep breath and open your eyes. But this is why the Eight-fetter can be so scary to work with, because we are dissolving all beliefs, even the belief about you having a body, even the belief about you having a name, you having anything that you believe that you have or that you are. All of that is being dissolved.
Yeah. I was actually going to say, I think we should bring in Shanath's question because it's very much related to this.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can kind of answer both at the same time. Shanath had said, "Hi, Todd and Pernilla. Wanted to hear your thoughts on something I wrote somewhere else today. How can you focus on the direct experience of feeling without using an image of the body? When I am not using an image and just staying present with the sights appearing, I'm not sure if I'm even feeling the sensation. It also seems harder to breathe, but that is just a conclusion I make. If I go back to a mental image of what's happening in the body, after a while of not using thought to refer to the sensations have become much bigger and my breathing is way faster. It's like the sensations are going to explode out of my body, or perhaps it's me panicking rather than a normal felt sensation. Never thought of that. This seems more different to how I normally look into sensations in the body. I usually have a mental image guiding me to the most intense place of a sensation, and this brings a separation to the felt sensation and sort of all kinds of subtle, sophisticated ways of controlling the sensation. This is despite most of my thoughts shouting to surrender to the sensation, but ironically, I'm trying to control it.
Yeah.
So there are a couple things there. One is to be aware it's okay at first when you're trying to focus. If we say focus on your left foot, it's okay to see that mental image of the left foot, but ultimately you want to just hone in on the raw physical sensation of the foot and what that feels like. And it might be tingling, pinpricks, buzzing, effervescence, perhaps even warmth or coldness or pressure. But the more you pay attention to those, even those labels are no longer adequate to describe what you're actually feeling. If you have any sort of descriptor in mind of what you're feeling, you can let that go too and just come to that raw base sensation that is there. And the mind can be tricky, and some of us are very much mental creatures. And so you might recognize that after you have lost the idea of that foot and the image of the foot is gone, now you start to see visual representations of the sensation itself. So you're not only feeling this tingling, buzzing feeling, but you're seeing white clouds of particles or red particles or yellow or a buzzy, hovery fuzziness in space. And the interesting thing is you can't even see the void, the blackness which is surrounding everything. You might have darkness behind the closed eyes, but that image that shows up, that when you're picturing your foot, there is just a cloud of hazy white sparks floating in this giant vastness of space, or this giant vast void. That is a mental image that is showing up in your mind. Even that is not the actuality.
Yeah.
We're really isolating one sense field at a time when we're doing this and coming just to the raw sensations of just hearing, just seeing, just feeling, just smelling, just tasting. And the sensation is one that often has one of these other mental images kind of glued to it, so much so that we don't recognize that it's even happening. And so it's becoming aware of, what does sensation feel like if you can't see it or represent it visually in any form, and then just remaining with that. And I think then what you were saying about the fact that you've lost the sense of a body, that you've lost a sense of any sort of perspective of space or anything else, Chanath, you might be noticing that is why you are having these kind of panicky symptoms that come up, because it is something that is perhaps
super
unexpected and
destabilizing.
and disorienting. And so it's okay. Just breathe, it's one of those things where the more you do it, the more normalized it becomes, and hopefully it won't be quite as shocking to the system. But it's perfectly okay. Just be gentle with it. And again, we're not forcing anything. We don't want to be putting your body into a state of prolonged stress, because you're going to end up with like PTSD every time you sit down to meditate, and that's going to be completely counterproductive. So
And I also just want to add that it's completely fine to land on that 8-fetter shell, where there's like a shelf of advaita, or expansiveness, or aware of awareness, or aware of consciousness, or seeing through awareness, seeing through the eyes, or having that, inhaling the cosmos and exhaling rain. And it's completely fine to land on that shelf if that shelf is giving you a feeling of safety in this moment, because we do not want you to feel stress in any way, or to feel disoriented, or feeling scared, or anything. It's completely fine to stay on that, because it is a wonderful place to be, and it is helpful. It is helpful to just stay there and have a breather, and feeling how you are dissolving completely, but you are bigger than just the body. You are bigger than just the sense of an eye. This is the big expansive eye. It's completely fine to go to that as training wheels, and just staying there for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to say one more thing regarding both Amit and then this question. It is so interesting, like Amit was saying about unpinning that sense of the body in the feeling of dissolving the eighth fetter when you're ready to dissolve the feeling of the eighth fetter. And it's, again, partly what I was pointing to, hopefully, in the meditation, but that we always have physical sensations happening. And one of the stark differences between when people are having these expansive, big unity consciousness kind of experiences versus the contracted little me feeling is more or less awareness of physical bodily sensations, and the ideas of where those sensations are happening. So if it feels like you are contracted and I am me, I'm identified again, notice what physical sensations are appearing most strongly. And it's usually somewhere in this range of the body, but notice that they are just raw sensations without, again, the mental images that are attached to them, without any ideas that this sensation is me separate from the sensation in my foot. There's an idea that this means something, identified, or this has some more of me in it than other sensations in my feet, or the other sensations of the mountains or the wall or the air around me. There's an idea that this sensation is identifiable as me, and the other ones are just sort of peripheral. And maybe I can feel them, maybe I can't, but they don't really, I could cut off my foot and I'm still me because I'm still feeling this. I can sometimes feel the air around me, sometimes I can't. So that's not me, this is me. Notice that the attention when you are having self-referential thoughts, when you are focusing on the me-ness of this moment, and it might have some emotional component to it, or it might just be that I am located here, sitting in this body. Notice the attention has gone from out there with the peripheral vision, with everything that's taken in the spaciousness around you, and the attention has been more focused on these sensations, to the exclusion of so much else. And when you are in that more eighth fetter expanded out there perspective, notice how little bodily sensation you're aware of. It's not that they've gone away. It's not that they're not there. They're just taking up much less of your attention. The attention is filled with all of the expansiveness and maybe the felt sensations that feel so much bigger and spread out, because the attention is moved out of this little bubble. But if the attention turns back on it, they're still there. And so effectively, the difference is a matter of the perspective of attention, not that these sensations of contraction are an indication that the me has recongregated or that the I is really here. It's just a misattribution of what these sensations mean, and the very fact that they are appearing in your awareness as opposed to just being, really engrossed with the breathing of the tree in front of me.
Beautiful.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Hopefully that helps.
Yeah, I thought that was really useful.
Thank you. Good. At least you did.
Yeah.
I can't verify. Can't guarantee anybody else outside of this room.
Absolutely,
but that's great.
confused everybody else,
Yeah,
and I think, yes,
but
you nailed it, babe. You nailed it.
Thank you, babe.
Yeah.
Okay, let's just see. I think there were some other comments that we didn't read. We read that one. Great, thank you. I'll do that for sure. Grace Happen said, this answers my question above. Not sure why I always forget to go to sensation. I spend most days in sensation, but all still get hooked by thought sometimes. Yeah, thoughts are incredibly tantalizing. They are there constantly, and they know exactly what is necessary.
It's entertainment.
They are, and they're like your own algorithm that has been completely defined.
They have the perfect algorithm for you.
Exactly. Yeah, they know exactly what is needed to hook your attention in and distract you from whatever it is that you are trying not to feel. And so they are perfectly fine-tuned to take you out of the present moment. So there's no problem with that. It's just recognizing that they're very efficient at what they do.
Yeah. And the more you work with it and really, really zoom in, slow down and zoom in, you start really to notice that you have a million thoughts going like that. And then the one that your algorithm think is the most entertaining, you pick onto and like, ooh, I have low self-worth. Oh. And of all the thoughts that you had, that was the one you went with.
Yeah.
It's just because it taps into something. And then on a deeper level, when we work with it in the second fetter, it is because it's tapping into something as a metaphor that needs your love and kindness. It's not specifically about that thing, you stumbling and falling nose flat in the store and feeling so shameful. It's not about that. It's about that feeling of shame that you had. It is that feeling of shame that needs to be expanded and felt into and allowed. And can you be in a body that feel this shameful? And then all the stories of previous times where you felt lots of shame are coming up. Just leave the stories. Just stay with the body that feels that shame and allow the body to experience and express. Because it is just a metaphor.
Yeah. I did want to address, though, Grace Happens' question. She said, before a meetup with a challenging person in my life, my mind likes to rehearse what may be said. I realize it's never right. Should I continue to just watch these thoughts play out? And there are a couple ways of answering that. Because on one hand, it's true that whatever we rehearse in our mind is never going to be exactly what happens. It's just our way of protecting ourselves or feeling like we're prepared in some way so that we're relieving the stress of being in a new situation that is unpredictable, that we don't know. However, there is something to be said where there are some people who just do better in social situations by having some sort of pre-rehearsed like working through things. I've always been like that.
Me too. As an autist, it's like a very, very autistic trait that we practice and rehearse everything because we're so awkward in social settings. I remember even as a child going to buy an ice cream, I would in the line standing with my coin and practicing saying the right thing to get the ice cream that I wanted. And every time I got to the what do you call it, to the shelf where I was ordering the ice cream, I would be so here in just focusing on saying the right words to get the right ice cream and doing that because it was so awkward. My go-to would be silence, and then I wouldn't get the ice cream that I wanted. So therefore, there's something to be said about the practicing.
Yeah.
So if there's any autism or anything neurodivergent, then it is a normal thing to do because we are absolute elephants in a China shop when it comes to socializing. I also want to say that the thing about rehearsing is that the what do you call it, faldgruppe, the dangerous part about rehearsing is that you are so prepared to answer the question that is never going to be asked. And that means that you will create something out of nothing in the situation because you have only rehearsed them being antagonistic, and they're just curious. But because you have rehearsed it, your entire nervous system is just up and going. The last thing I want to say, and then you are allowed to talk. The last thing I want to say is that what you're talking about has an underlying belief in fear. There's a toxic starting point of fear. You feel unsafe in the world, and you need to rehearse and practice and prepare yourself for what you know will come. And that is an underlying belief in fear. And I can recommend you to go to the second fetter and work with fear and incorporate it into your life, in your everyday life, when you're standing doing the dishes, when you're getting into your car to drive somewhere, when you're doing laundry, when you're, chopping wood, carrying water, no matter what you're doing, if you keep incorporating, okay, how do I feel unsafe right now? What am I preparing for right now? Because you will find that you feel unsafe in everything. What is in one aspect is in all aspects. So you have that underlying fear of the undefined that you need to prepare yourself for all the time. And for that, I'm just sending you so much love. Very, very recognizable.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now you can talk.
That was actually what I was going to circle back to, but you said it way better than I was going to, so I'm glad you did it instead. That was really good.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have more questions here.
Okay. Yeah, but these people are live, so
we go with the live first.
Yeah. Leela said the whole notion of 5 separate senses is learned. There are not any discrete number of senses, and they're not separate. When I drop all labels, there's often a feeling of terror.
Yeah. It is helpful. It is helpful to work, and it's also why we have created the curriculum as we have. That it is taking one thing at a time, and then slowly expanding. And when you get to the point where 6-fetter, for example, a lot of people that we have experienced that are completely there. They're completely there when they start working with the 6-fetter. But then when you start to tickle that subject here, object out there, and what I'm seeing is that, what I'm hearing is that, when synesthesia starts to happen, where what you see, you actually smell, what you hear, you actually see, when those boundaries start to dissolve, because like you say, there are no 5 senses. It's just experienced in the same field as the same thing, the same way, all of it. But when that starts to dissolve, that can be so destabilizing. And a lot of people need to take a trip back to the first fetter. And with that new insight of that there is no seeing, there is no hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, none of that exists in an in there, out there relationship as I thought, then you go back to the first fetter, or whichever of the lower 5 that speaks to you to work with first, but work with the fetter with that insight. Okay, so the things that I really want in my life, or I don't want in my life, if there's no in here, out there, what does that actually say about the delusion that I'm maintaining in my life? If there's no judgment of anything out there, because there's nothing in here that can actually judge anything out there, because there is no out there, what does that actually mean to my entire foundation of belief? So you take the new insight, and that's why we call it the wheel of identification, that you just work with the part of the wheel that speaks to you right now with whatever new insight you have had. You need to update all the other types of identification, because it's like a kaleidoscope. The picture changed for whatever little tweak you do, the entire picture change.
That's great.
Yeah. Okay.
So Nils actually had 2 questions. There's one on Discord and then a short one here. Can I use the 10th fetter to help with the fear from the other fetters? I would say that is going to be a case of bypassing,
Yeah.
where if it's not an the 10th fetter, when we talk about the wisdom of ignorance and the not knowing and all of that, that's not to be used as a philosophical standpoint to soothe yourself in moments of fear and all of that. It's just a relief that comes with the absolute letting go of the ability to know anything, or the recognition that, anytime you feel like you are in a position where you seem to be making some sort of distinction, or creating some sort of um, me versus them, or one of these situations, it's just this natural, of course, we do not know, we cannot create anything. There's no framework that has any sort of legitimacy to it. And that's just a natural falling away that happens. We run the risk of doing the 10th fetter radical non-duality kind of bypassing, where we just go, well, there's nobody, there's nothing to do, it's fine, you don't have to worry about it. And there is some brief psychological reprieve that can come from that, but ultimately it doesn't get to really the core of why you feel that fear and distress to begin with. It was useful for me back in the day, many years ago, when I was agoraphobic and having panic attacks and that sort of thing. The Buddhist philosophy of anatta was really soothing, because all fear and anxiety stems around this, the need to protect this internal me that's believed to be here. And so the philosophy of, well, there is no one here, and there's no one who's going to die, and there's no one to be injured, and it doesn't matter what happens to the body, it doesn't matter what happens, that was taken on. And philosophically, it was very soothing for one who had been spending years in a hyper state of constant vigilance, constantly looking for all of the ways in which I'm going to be injured or used by somebody else, or what do you call it, accused of something by somebody else, or whatever the thing was that I was afraid of. It's a very soothing balm for that, but it doesn't get to the underlying root of the anxiety itself. And for that, it's much more useful to go head on and then really feel into, where is the fear coming from, and be specific, and where's the anxiety coming from, and going into the roots of all that is going to flesh those out, so that you don't need to have this secondary thought that comes in that just soothes it down for a little while so you can get some rest or not have a panic attack in the middle of the grocery store. It's something where it's just doesn't need to arise at all.
I also want to say that you also miss the point a bit of the 10th fetter when it's taken like that, because the 10th fetter of the wisdom of ignorance, it can be taken, like Todd said, either as a radical non-duality, that there is nothing, I do not know anything, there's no one that knows anything, because there's nothing to be known and there's no one to know it. That can be taken as an intellectual understanding, but that is missing the point, because that is a belief.
Exactly.
What we're doing here in the Eight-fetter is dissolving the belief. In your direct experience, do you know that you do not know? You can't even talk about the 10th fetter. So there needs to be an experience of it first. So when you get to the 10th fetter, it's an okay. It's like a complete puzzle piece that you put the last piece in and it just says click, and it's just, oh wow, okay, I get it. That's the 10th fetter. It is the understanding. Throughout all the fetters I talk about, acknowledge, accept, and understand. The 10th fetter is clearly understanding, and it cannot be understood with the intellect. That needs to be detached before that. So I would say that work with second, fourth, and fifth. Find out what it is that you really do not want to look at, and then look at, why is it you believe that this is bigger than you, that this is bigger, a bigger trauma, a bigger deal to look at. Why is it you want to schedule to the 10th fetter right away, and of not knowing what is it you believe that you are getting, that you are avoiding by just scheduling to the 10th fetter right away. I'm sure that there will be so many insights for you in the other fetters up until that, and it's particularly in the eighth fetter of dissolving all beliefs. There was another part of the question here.
Well, Niels had a longer one here, which is really good. And it's kind of a different question, but it was really good. Hey, Todd and Pranav. My question is about the difference in inquiry between the first, sixth, and eighth fetter. I've been following Kevin Shanilak's fetter guide, and when working with fetters 1, 6, and 8, the allusion or reference back to the separate self, the witness subject on the sixth fetter, and I am in the eighth, they all refer to some very subtle sensation kind of in my sternum. Can they all be the same sensation? When working with the inquiry guiding on Todd's YouTube Unfettered Mindfulness, I follow the inquiry on some videos on the first fetter, and that inquiry is the same as the exercises Kevin teaches for the eighth fetter. Is it the same inquiry for 1 and 8, looking for the sense of me, I am, I exist?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We work in many ways very different than Kevin Shanilak and Christian Michelberger. For one, they work linearly. They work, first the first, and then they skip the second and third, and then work on fourth and fifth, and so on. So they work linearly like that. We don't work like that because there's nothing in life that is linear. You cannot find anything. I mean, Fibonacci, and then that's it. So there's nothing that is linear in life, not even insights. It's everything is always happening in like these circles where we take 2 steps forward, 1 step back. They do talk about it when they talk about the leading edge and the trailing edge. So you are working with the trailing edge, that's the fetter that you are in, but the leading edge is in some other fetter, which is just another way to say that it's not linear, that it is circular, and that's what we're then working with. Another difference is that we work with the fetters in pairs because all of them are connected. The first fetter is the very crude I am sense of I am my body, I am my thoughts, I am my feelings and emotions, everything that arises here is me, and I am the one creating it. When that is dissolved, there's still that little kernel of an I here. And that is then what Advaita called for the big I am sense. So it's an I am, with the big S self, I am awareness, I'm consciousness. But if you really look at it, that is still identification. There's still an I in the sentence, which means that nothing has changed. We're just now saying this is not the egoic I, this is the expansive universal I. It's still identification, and that's why we pair the first and the eighth together, because they are 2 sides of the same coin. They're both delusion. They're both taking a starting point in an I being here.
It's funny because I actually had a session with somebody recently, and they were saying that they had a lot of spiritual experiences and openings throughout their life, but then they went through Liberation Unleashed recently, and even though they only guide through first fetter with that, this person actually had like an eighth fetter opening by doing those first fetter inquiries. There's a lot where that can actually open up that eighth fetter sense as well. And there is, relates back to what we were saying with Amit's question and with the meditation today. There is something where the physical sensations do carry connotations that they don't actually have in them that help to create all of the senses of identification. So whether it's the first fetter really feeling like I am the body, to the sixth fetter, that feeling that something is out there and it's separate from this feeling that's in here, to the eighth fetter where it's still that feeling of somehow being present and there's a physical component that relates to it. Even when we were talking about, and this is still more sixth fetter, but like if you're feeling the sensations in your foot, like you were having them do earlier, notice if it feels like you are looking at those sensations from someplace distant or feeling them from someplace distant. And where is that? And most people, when you try this, if you can try it right now, if you, again, close your eyes and feel the sensations in your foot, and you're feeling the sensations there, and notice if it feels like you are either looking down at it or feeling down at it, feeling it from a different place. And oftentimes people will say that they feel it that they are located in the head, and the foot sensations are kind of down there a few feet below or at some sort of a distance. But the curious thing is, how do you know that I am located in my head? What you're feeling is more physical sensations in the head, which seem for some reason to be closer, bigger, more identified with. And so that gets taken as the me location. And so it's to break it down to now, why do those sensations feel like me? Are they being known from someplace else? And we can start to go into these excursions where we try to find out what the physicality is actually telling us about where I am located. And this maintains through the different fetters to where, as I was saying, when you're in that kind of blissed out, open, expansive first fetterness, or excuse me, eighth fetterness, you're probably feeling sensations which are not as localized as you've been used to in daily occurrence. They don't seem to be as constrained to what we take to be the locality of the body, the face, the chest, the throat. It's something else that's happening. And so recognizing if there's still something here that feels locatable, and I know Kevin for the eighth fetter says, like, you use the phrase like I am, or I think he just uses I am. And notice what physical sensations arise from that. And it is the similar sort of thing that arises with the first fetter, the sixth fetter, and the eighth fetter. There are sensations here which we take to be in some way an indication of my existence. What is it that feels like your existence in this moment? It might not be something as gross and discoverable as like a muscle contraction or something like that, but there is something in the field of your whole awareness that seems to be an I exist. And some people might call that awareness or consciousness, or the kernel of an I, or the me that has been here before this physical body was born, or since time began, or something like that. But notice, how is that being recognized? And most likely you will find that there is still a physical sense component to it. It might not be as localized as a contraction in the chest or feeling of tension behind the eyes, but there is something which is being discovered in the felt sense field, and perhaps also relating to some of the other sense fields that are there, to create that sense of my existence. And that's what we're pointing through.
I have heard you say somewhere, can't obviously remember where, if it was in a group or in meditation or inquiry or something, but you once said that when you sit and you have your eyes closed and you think of your foot, the moment you think of your foot, your eyes look down to the feet. And that movement of the muscles where the eyes do like that gives that identification with, okay, I must be here and my feet are down there, which means that I am here. But if you really, really slow down and zoom in on it, the only thing that you actually feel is a muscle contraction of eyes moving. If you're not moving your eyes, very often that sense of an eye that is placed right here is dissolved. So if you then think, I am in the chest, or I am in the kernel around here, notice how your eyes are moving. Notice how your chest is moving. Notice how a contraction is to be found where you think that an eye is, because you only locate that kernel of a self where there is a muscular contraction. And it's also what Alan Watts, what he said, that the sense of a self is nothing but a muscular contraction.
Chronic muscular
contention. That is what we take as an I. But it's really that practicing, doing the exercises. So you practice and really, really notice that, oh my goodness, I am not to be found anywhere. There muscle tension where I believe that I am, but it's nothing but that.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't remember where you said it.
I think I've said it multiple times.
Yeah, you
have.
Yeah.
But anyway,
solid that brilliant.
Thanks, babe. Solid point, though. And thank you, Grace, for that very generous donation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's an adorable little thank you.
It's so helpful. It's so helpful.
let's see. Hold on. So Karen said, "Can you answer my Discord question about the point of the fetter work?" But do you? That's not on here, was it? I don't remember
we
seeing
have
that
an
on here.
Andrew. No, we have an Andrew as the last one.
Let me see if I can go back and find it.
I have an Andrew and a Patty as the last one.
The Patty we're waiting for
Yeah.
Tuesday, right? Let me see if I can find Karen's question.
I'm sorry if I missed it in the.
I don't actually. Was it? Karen? Did you write it in the Friday Q&A question Discord text chat? Because I just scrolled all the way up to the top and I don't see one from you in that channel.
There's so many talks back and forth on Discord that we can't follow all of them. We're trying to man it as well as we can, but we can't follow all of them. So if you have written it anywhere else,
foundational feathers, maybe.
Foundational feathers.
Okay, I see one. Yep. Okay. So it looks like you had a bit of a back and forth on 9-9. Okay, so let's see. Let me. Do you want to address if there's anything else there? Because I'm going to read through this and see if I can find. Because there was a big back and forth with you guys. So I'm going to see if I can find the question that was there without reading through the whole thing out loud.
I can't remember that.
All right, I'll see what I can find.
Yes.
Do you want to just check through and see if there's anything else to be?
No, I'm not good at understanding questions.
Okay.
Not today.
Do you want to read through this and I'll...
No, I'm not good at reading today.
Okay, here it is. Sorry, I found it. Pernilla, can I ask, what is the point of the fetter work? I'm asking from a sincere and honest place, not an argumentative one. My assumption is that we end suffering and find peace this way, but peace is a concept too. I've watched every video you've put out in the fetters and struggle to not be identified with concepts.
Yeah.
I picture an endpoint where I don't want to do anything but sit because I see that everything is an illusion and there's no point to any of it. I'm not having a mental health crisis at all, just curiously moving along this path. Yeah, really good question. Okay.
What did I answer?
Yeah, I don't think you did. I think you missed that one. Oh, no, I'm sorry, you did. You did. You said, I completely hear you. Would you be okay if we answer your question on Friday?
I said that.
Well done,
well done me. I completely forgot about that.
In the meantime, we suffer because of underlying beliefs. We can become aware of what they are by paying attention to thoughts and see them as metaphors. The fetter work is a concept that supports the unraveling of those areas of identification. When the need for identification has been seen through, they bear no burden or vitality or validity any longer, and there's just an open space of being. It's difficult to explain in words and even more difficult in writing, so we'll answer more on Friday. If you have anything more to add to your question, please write in the thread for Friday Q&A.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I have completely forgot about that. I can't even remember me answering that either.
Well done, babe.
I'm nailing this.
Well
I'm nailing this. So what was the question again?
So what is the point of the fetter work? Because effectively she doesn't want to, well, she imagines that the end of it is just wanting to just sit and do nothing because everything, including peace, is just another thought or concept.
Yeah. I completely get that. The point of, I would say that the point of working with the feathers is to become aware of all the areas that we identify with, because every single identification is there from our bullshit backpack and has a foundation in an underlying belief and a toxic starting point, which means that every single identification we have is a survival mechanism. It's something that we are doing out from a contractive space to be able not to experience whatever that made us feel fear, anger, guilt, and shame again. So therefore, we're trying to be one step ahead so that doesn't happen again. Like we just said previously regarding fear, that we're hearing everything through that filter. So the feathers are just 10 different ways of dissolving those identification. And it's also why that we have put it up as a wheel, so you can jump about and really work with that contraction that you have. Oh, this is more a first fetter contraction, then you work with that. Oh, now it's more like a 6-fetter contraction, then you work with that. So it's just really moving with that 9-fetter flow of whatever is present and alive in you right now that needs your compassion and your kindness. I hear your question a little bit like there's bliss on one side or there's nihilism on the other side. I mean, if there's nothing, then I'm just gonna sit, and what's the point of that? It's like there's but with that you're creating something out of nothing. It's like you are and I'm not pointing directly at you, Karen. It's not at all what I'm saying. I'm just saying that it's like that when we feel into that, we kind of imagine a life where we don't have our trauma anymore. We don't have all the trauma bonding anymore, and we don't have that anymore. But then what's the point of living? Because we can't imagine a life where there's no suffering. We can't imagine a life where there's no preparing ourselves in any way to engage with other people or to feel safe, because we know that we cannot be unsafe in any way. So when we have that jumping between the bliss state where nothing matters and the nihilistic state where nothing matters, both of those are still based on the belief. And it's not the space we talk about when we talk about the 10th feather falling. There is a space with stillness, simplicity, and contentment. It's normally the words that I use to describe it. Some people also resonate when I call it, a space of kindness, where there is no identification and there's no footing and there's no previously or in a moment. There is just this here right now and nothing else but that. There's not a space of can you help me out?
Well, I was actually going to come from a slightly different
Okay,
angle, but,
come
but
from a
you're,
different angle. No, but it's just that there's not when we believe that the endpoint is in the 8-fetter Advaita bliss bubble, love bubble that we're in, and we oscillate between that and the nihilism. It's just that oscillation that is happening is just to remind us that it's not the endpoint. It's still based on our belief. There is a space with no belief where there's nothing that needs to change and nothing needs to happen. Everything is full as it is, which means that you're not just sitting with your finger up your nose doing nothing, and you're not, standing with a gun to a temple doing nothing, that because both of those still are full of so much.
No.
It's really being in that space where the whole idea of creating something out of nothing is not even there.
No. Yeah, I think, so historically, the point of the fetters was to escape the wheel of samsara, because there was a literal idea of rebirth where this was a way of removing that possibility of, if we were taking it literally, of being reborn again and again and again. And as times have changed and as beliefs have changed, and some people still take it literally, other people take it metaphorically. I do like the metaphorical idea of rebirth through the different realms, the Buddhist realms, as being metaphors for the way in which we are reborn through different emotional states and different ways of being all throughout each day. And that doing this kind of work takes you to where you are in this kind of level playing field, not being pulled into anger and jealousy and delusion and craving, and just moving from place to place, being pulled at the whims of our basest urges. It's being like okay with whatever happens, where you're in that sort of you've escaped the wheel of samsara in that way, because you're no longer at the mercy of the mind just creating all of its drama and turbulence. There's an equanimity there where you're sort of untouched by all of that. If you don't want to go the traditional route, you don't have to. And I think there's also something to be said for the practicality of doing this work at whatever level is useful for you. There's something to be gained from the fetter work at all levels, regardless of if you take them to their ultimate conclusion.
Yeah.
It is about relieving suffering. It is about becoming more of a functional member of society. It's not about sitting out life in a cave just doing nothing. You could do that if you wanted to. And the good thing is, the more you do this sort of thing, the less you need to do other things to distract yourself, which has been the goal of most of our existence, is constantly striving for something more, because I need to get that degree so that I have some sense of personal validation, that I have achieved something and I feel better about myself, or I need to go to that club tonight, because if I just sit home alone, I'm going to feel really bad about myself, or I'm going to have to sit with my emotions, which I do not want to do. I can't, just sit down and be quiet, because my mind is going to bring up all the things I don't want to think about. I need to go out and get drunk and party and dance and just enjoy my life. Those are things which, it's not to say that going out and getting drunk and partying is a bad thing in and of itself, but if it's used as a means of escape, then you're missing something. You're at the mercy of this other thing to keep you from feeling okay, if that's not an option. And you get bound into these cycles of addiction. And so what we're doing is basically getting so that you are stable enough in your own being that you can just be alone on a Friday night and it's okay. You can experience whatever emotions arise in the body and be okay with them. You can encounter whatever traumatic residue has not been addressed through all of the previous years, and you can be okay just feeling that and being with it and letting all of these things go. And it doesn't mean that you have to end your life in a monastery or in a cave. You can have a relationship. You can volunteer. You can play sports. You can do whatever you want to do, because effectively the conditioning which has led to you being the way that you are in this moment is not all going away. What we take to be the personality doesn't fundamentally change with all of this. What we take to be the pattern of behavior that other people see might change a little bit, but it's not going through some marked renovation where all of a sudden you just become this lifeless, expressionless, affectless, zombie just walking through life. That's just not the way it is. The interests that you have had in the past still will probably be somewhat interesting to you, depending on the reason why you were into it. There are some things that if they're really egoically derived, they might fall away, but something else will probably come up. Something is there that movements happen, life happens, all of this happens without the need for it to be a certain way, without the attachments for it.
There's no stories anymore about it. So it's really living a life without any stories being created on top of it.
Yeah.
So when you're out, playing football or biking or roller skating or anything, there's just a pure being here right now. There's not a thought of how great you look or what the other people think or it's going to rain shortly or anything. It's just a pure being right now, and an awareness and presence right now without any story added to it at all. And it's the same when you meet people, that there's no stories created about them. There's no preconceived notion about who that person is, or who you should be with them. There's no stories about anything. It's just whatever is present and alive right now.
Yeah, it's a life free of reactivity, where you're not bound into, because of those stories, you're not bound into defensive postures and offensive postures because you're trying to maintain some sort of ideal or protect something in here. You're free to hear somebody else with different political opinions and other ideas just express them without feeling immediately defensive and like you have to go on the attack. It's a different way of.
And also when you hear somebody else, for example, we're in the US, so obviously there's lots of political debate all the time, and it feels like the nation is divided in two. But no matter who you speak with, you meet them as a person, you meet them as a human being, and you see all the causes and conditions that have led them to have the political standpoint that they have. And you completely, with an open heart, absolutely understand why that has happened. And you have no skin in the game for them to change their minds or to hear your side of it or anything. It's just that honest presence with another human being that is happening. That is so freeing for everybody involved, because it's just a curious interest in the other person that is not politically, loaded in any way.
Yeah. I think that about covers the...
I'm so sorry that I completely forgot about it. And if I ever on Discord say we're gonna talk about that on Friday, be rest assured we're not. We're not gonna talk about that on Friday. You need to write your question in the Q&A, otherwise it is gone.
I was just going to say, I wonder how many other people you promised to answer questions to
God.
this week.
Yeah. Oh, God. If I promised to answer your question and you're sitting and waiting, it's not going to happen.
Leaving a trail of disappointment behind you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So now there's a second feather to work with. You're welcome. You're welcome. Aiming to please. It was actually planned from the beginning. So if anybody else is sitting and waiting, because I promised that we're going to talk about your question, please go to Discord and write your question there, and then we talk about it. Or come on Tuesday, and then we talk about it in the inquiry group.
Yeah, good advice.
Yeah.
Let me just go back and see if we missed something, because I think we did.
Has Leela written to you about things we have forgotten?
Nope, still good.
So, okay.
Split Mind said, sick with COVID, recalling a sense the other day while driving that nothing ever really happened. Mom, Dad, me, the victim story. Mind has trouble fathoming this, but that's okay. Oh, that's wonderful. Sorry about the COVID, though.
Yeah, not fun.
No, it's really not. Yeah, really, really good to have those openings where you just recognize that everything you've taken to be your personal story is just a refabricated retelling of a fictional account that is showing up right in this moment. That it's not like you were ever back there again. It's not like you are remembering things that have actually happened. It's just a new narrative playing out in this moment, effectively for the first time. Then the memory or the mind will create these concoctions of putting it in line with all the other times that this has come about and why it means something important for me and all of that. But just recognizing that in this moment, it is just this new fleeting image in the mind, a storyline that could be anything, any storyline that you've read on in a book or seen on TV. And it's just doesn't have to be held with any more authority or believability than that.
Yeah.
But really wonderful when that just spontaneously is like,
mom and dad are actually human beings, and based on their causes and conditions. Wow. Okay, get it. I get it.
And the whole relationship as I had framed it was actually just my
framing of it.
It's just my conviction and conceptualization of something which is unconceptualizable.
And always based on a survival. On what you needed to do in that moment to survive in the position you were in at the age that you were in. Yeah. Beautiful. And sorry about COVID. Vitamin C.
Yeah, and D.
And D. And zinc.
Dahlia said, dissolving the body still there is a belief that there's a belief that the sensations are over there. For example, the tingling sensation in the place of the foot is felt down there. There's a direction towards something.
It's what we talked about with the eyes.
Funny, you just answered my question. Thank you. That was perfectly timed. So
perfect.
Hopefully that clarified everything. Okay. Karen said, Pernilla, I love your humor. I appreciate you both. It's okay. Thank you.
Good.
And Nil said, is that unfettered space a lot like direct experience? I would effectively say, yeah. I mean, it's because if we're describing direct experience by means of it's the raw sensation without thought clouding it and covering it.
Direct experience is what is arising in this moment in your sensory, in your sense field, without a thought attached to it. And if a thought is attached to it, you detach the thought and just notice where in the sense field are you now. And what is interesting when you work with your direct experience is that you find out why we keep talking about slowing down and zooming in, because that sense field changes all the time.
Yeah.
You really, really become aware that it's just a snapshot and a snapshot and a snapshot. Because the direct experience, for example, if you close your eyes right now and you feel into that tingling sensation in the area of the foot, look up, close your eyes, look up to the third eye, and then feel the sensory experience, the tingling sensation in the foot. By now you feel that there's no foot anymore, that is just tingling sensation that is occurring in an open space. And notice now that it's not even located where the foot is. It can be in front of you or behind you. It's moving and morphing in an open space that is not even located within the parameter of your body. Okay, open your eyes again. And that is what happens when you're in direct experience. It is morphing and changing all the time. There is not a single moment that is copy-pastable to the next. There is no single moment that is the same over and over and over. We're zoomed too far out looking at it when we think that a headache is a headache, or the sensation of a kernel of an eye here, it's always the sensation of a kernel of an eye here. You need to zoom in, really slow down and zoom in and really notice what is it actually that kernel of an eye feels like. Because we know there is no kernel of an eye, so what is it then? If there's not an eye that is located here, the big self that is located here, what is it then? And to notice that, you need to slow down and zoom in, and you will feel that it is sensory experiences that is moving all over the place all the time. And it's not located to where you would say that your body actually is.
You're really good.
Thank you. We had another one from Andrew, and I think that was the last one.
Okay. Andrew said, "Hi guys, posting this from one of our conversations for the Q&A, and thanks. I also feel like some sensation, no matter how long I sit with them, they just stay and stay and stay. But it's just like a contraction or constant tension in the solar plexus. Is this normal? Do they eventually dissolve? Like, I've been working with one for a couple of weeks now, and it hasn't dissolved, still hasn't dissolved."
I'm sorry, I was a bit quick there. That is exactly what I just answered. That is the answer to you, Andrew. That you assume you're seeing it from too far a distance when you have that feeling, but it hasn't dissolved yet. You haven't zoomed in enough. You need to look closer. You need to stay in the direct experience, look closer, and zoom in and slow down, and notice how that is changing and morphing all the time. There's nothing that stays the same because nothing is permanent. It's also why that when you feel a shift of any kind, it doesn't stay. Nothing is permanent. A shift can't stay, an insight can't stay, because there's nothing permanent, and there's nothing permanent that it is happening to. So when we believe that there is something here that is permanent, it is a delusion, because nothing is. There's nothing permanent and nothing permanent it can happen to.
Wonderful. I saw Leela just sent me the other Chanath question that we could
Oh,
answer.
okay. Do you want to do that?
Yeah.
Go on.
Oh, sorry. And I was just going to say, about that one. And sorry, I was I was kind of reading what she had sent, so I kind of zoned out for part of that, what you were saying.
Zone back in.
Thank you. Did you say? Did you say?
Oh, don't ask me, but I can't remember that. We need to check with Karen if I said it.
No, about the difference between the emotional aspect of the sensation and
No, I didn't say
the
that.
physical.
No, say that.
Because I think what's interesting, and this is where I think I wanted a little bit more clarification on the question, was that the emotional sensations are what we take to be a sensation related to a certain emotion is what we say will come and go and change within a matter of seconds if we're not stimulating it again with another thought, which is sparking that sensation. So if the solar plexus sensation has a certain connotation to it, like, is that a feeling of me needing protection? Is that a feeling of me, my feeling of just sort of unease or restlessness of being in the world? Whatever that is, notice if there is a thought attached to it, and if there's like an emotional component to it or some sort of meaning that is being attached to it that's making it into something else. And then if you're sitting there with it, is there a feeling of waiting for it to go away and wanting for it to go away, as opposed to just recognizing that this is just pure sensation that on its face does not actually mean anything? There has to be some other conceptualization of it that makes that sensation into my need for protection or my lack of safety right now or whatever else it shows up as. So just coming back to that is very different than noticing that also physical sensations just are. We have physical sensations all the time, and it's not about getting to a point where all of a sudden you don't feel any physical sensations ever again, because that would not be useful for living a life. And they're constantly refreshing, they're constantly changing, they're constantly morphing in different ways, and it's just becoming very, very aware of even when I say that this physical sensation has been there for days, is that still the same physical sensation? In what way has it changed from moment to moment? Is it stronger? Is it weaker? Is it bigger? Is it more diverse, more diffuse? Is it moved a little bit lower, a little bit higher? What is the visualization of that, and how has that changed? How is my relationship to it changed? Just being really aware of what is actually happening and what you think that is saying or meaning.
I just want to circle back to what you just said about that need for it to change.
Yeah.
Why does it need to change?
Exactly.
What is it? What is it that you don't want now that you do want to happen? That is fourth and fifth fetter. What is it right now that is wrong with having that sensation of a kernel of an eye here? What's the matter with that? It's like waiting for your nose to dissolve. Why do you want your nose to dissolve? That why would life be better if your nose dissolves? It's a bit like that when we have something that we fight with that we don't want, really look into what is that about. What is it that you believe is not okay, or is not real, or you're not there, or whatever? What are the stories about?
Yeah, and what expectations are built upon that? Like one that we hear a lot is for the sixth fetter, that people are waiting for their three-dimensional vision to just disappear.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not there until I'm walking around in this flat two-dimensional world all the time. But there is something to be said for the experience of having that breakdown so that you can recognize the difference between the actuality of the visual experience and what mental overlay is creating that sense of distance or space or perspective out of it. But just walking around with no depth perception is not necessarily a sign of awakening. It's not necessarily a sign of something that is desirable. Like, if
you could have a brain injury and have that.
Exactly. And if you have no sense of feeling in the body, talk to people who have like neuropathy and stuff, where they where they lose the sense of their feet and they can barely walk because they literally can't feel where their feet are on the ground, and life becomes very difficult. So it's just being aware of how literally we are taking some of these things and the expectations of wanting them to be permanent, which in itself, I mean, it would be very life complicating at best if some of these things were permanent ways of being. But also notice if it's coming because there is a striving for the idea that an attainment has to look like this, and I need to have these markers in order for me to feel like I have attained this thing. So is that expectation actually based in something real, or is that just something that you have understood and are working towards that particular understanding? And then notice too, is it coming from a self-annihilational kind of perspective? A lot of, especially when we come to the spiritual practice or the spiritual pursuit from past histories of depression and anxiety and fear and self-loathing and all of these things, a lot of what we take to be the hallmarks of spiritual progress are this idea of self-annihilation. I'm getting rid of the self in all of the different ways. And there is a suicidal sort of manifestation in that. And it's recognizing, like, if you are trying to get rid of the body, that is coming from a place which is not a healthy spiritual pursuit. There is some fundamental antagonism towards the body, towards what is here right now, towards the experience of it, which is trying to annihilate certain aspects of what you took yourself to be, or what you believe this shouldn't be this way. And so really get clear on, why do you want that to be the outcome? Why is that the desirable state that you are looking to achieve? If there's no me, and there's no body, and there's no suffering, and there's no depth perception, and no feeling of anything, why is that appealing to you? And just see, what is the driver for this?
What is it you say in the poem about this type of suicide is still social accept? What do you remember what you say?
Not exactly,
You're
but
putting
something
on the
about,
spot.
but effectively the idea of, like, the
That-
monastic spiritual path of killing desire, killing the ego, killing pride is still a socially accepted form of suicide.
Yeah.
Effectively that.
Yeah. Todd has written a poetry book that it's sort of a poetry book. It's
Quasi poetry.
It's going to be published at some point. But it's really good.
Time
it's
is
called,
not linear, so
it has already
been published, and it's already been never published.
And it's called Only in Your Mind. And what is brilliant about it is that the majority of what the reader is reading, the poetries are happening in your mind while you're reading them. So, for example, he has written them in normal lines, like paragraphs, as if it's like what do you call it?
Like a
novella, novel or something like that. But because it's rhyming, when you read it as if it's a poetry, as if it's a poem, which it is. But that is happening in your mind, and so many things that he has written in the poetry book is happening in the mind of the reader. It's an absolutely brilliant book. You can just look forward to reading it. It's so fucking good.
Thank you,
it's so good. It's so good.
Oh,
yeah.
You.
Yeah.
Thank you. The biggest fan.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm doing waves daily.
I know. Thank you, babe.
Love him.
Okay, Chana, last question there.
Oh my goodness, I'm almost out of battery.
Oh,
we might end the meeting sooner than we thought.
Yeah, so much for Mac and
Mac?
They're wow, that's crazy. Okay. How much is left?
17%.
Oh wow, yikes. Okay. If we leave, goodbye.
if we suddenly leave, then see you Tuesday.
Yes, thank you all. I wanted to ask about restlessness, especially when waking up in the morning. Sometimes a feeling of lack comes up and confusion along with it. Wanting to know where I am, fetter-wise, and where I'm headed towards comes up. Usually results in being stuck in a mental storm that is constantly sighing at the paradoxical and becoming tired, which leads me back to the body, fortunately. Especially at night, I can feel an immense relaxation to what is already the case, allowing sensations to be just as they are. It's ironic that I'm asking to do something about it. This lack of contentment usually comes when I'm with other people. There seems to be a lot of push and pull reactivity happening, and an impression of someone doing something is more heightened. It's very peaceful when I'm at home. There seems to also be a desire to be peaceful, to deconstruct experience, to progress. Would love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah.
I think
That's amazing.
yeah.
I just go and get the charger. I
Sure.
just saw Karen. She sent a thank you as well.
Oh,
Thank you so
oh my
much.
God, thank you so much, Karen. It's so generous.
We're so
Thank
grateful.
you.
We're
Thank
so
you.
grateful. I'm just gonna go get the
Yeah,
charger. You start.
the hello. the extension cord is under the couch. Okay. Oh, okay, that one. Yeah, that works also. The orange one is under there.
Thank you.
Okay. So, oh, and also I thought I saw. Oh no, Mac. I'm sorry. Hold on, people. I'm not used to this computer. Babe.
Yeah.
Everybody went away, and I don't know how to get them back. It's like, oh wait, here we are. Okay, I found him. Sorry. We are so technologically proficient. It is amazing.
What are you talking about? Talk about yourself. Talk for yourself.
Okay, we are charging. We are good now. Another 6 hours. Okay.
Where did they go?
Where did what go?
Everybody. You said they went.
Oh no, I minimized your whole thing just disappeared. It was very confusing. Okay. So all right. So I think some of this actually comes back to things that we've already discussed. Also the sort of restless panic
so
element.
many
There are a
in it,
lot of things in here.
There's so many layers.
There are many different fetters that this brings up.
Yeah.
The feeling of push and pull, especially around other people, and the way that creates that sense of identity is really important to look into, because it's seeing what you want out of a certain situation and how it feels like you have to defend something, or you need to manipulate things to be a certain way, or that you need certain people to act a certain way around you. And it's just recognizing, like, when you are in that situation where you're talking to other people and you suddenly feel that selfness kind of recongregating or becoming stronger, I would invite you to tune in that moment to find out what feels more identified right then. So what does that actually mean? Like we talked about earlier, are you physically more aware of certain bodily sensations? Is there like a flushing in the face? Do you feel warmth? Do you feel tension in certain parts of the body? Do these lead you to believe that now I am contracted in some way? So notice the felt sense that is leading you to that conclusion. Notice the thoughts that are coming up. If it feels like your thoughts become more self-referential, if it becomes more that you are now seeing yourself through the eyes of these other people. So now I'm assuming what I think they think about me, and I have to manipulate my behavior to become more what I think I want them to see, as opposed to the way that I see me. And this is just level over level over level of projection and assumption, which is
reality.
There's no actuality to how you see yourself or how you believe they see you. There's no truth in any of that. You will never know how anybody is seeing you, and there's no way to be a certain way to get somebody else to see you a certain way.
Can I just add to that?
Always.
Because that delusion, it's so prevalent in all of us, that when we're in a situation where we just freeze that moment, right? That you are standing and you think that they look at you in a certain way. The first thing that we point to is that you have no idea what other people see. First of all, because they don't see you, they see their projection of you, of them in you. So they don't even see you. They only see themselves. And the same with you. When you project on what you think they think of you, it's just what you think of you. But what you think of you is not even what you think of you. It's what your causes and conditions and judgment and assumptions and opinions are judging whatever you assume you are in this moment, which you're not. it's just assumptions. It's that it's the thinker that is thinking about the thinker. So it all of a sudden becomes like a triangle of a you and a thinker, and the thoughts the thinker has about you, which is not real at all. There's nothing in that that is real in any way. It's just layer upon layer upon layer of delusion after delusion after delusion, and you're not there and they are not there, so nobody is present in the moment. Everything is projected into previous experiences you have had that you pull into this moment, or assumptions about how the future is going to pan out if you don't do this and that, which is pulled into this moment. Nobody's present right here. There's nobody home.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Really good. I just wanted to see, because there was something else.
There were so many things in that.
There were a lot.
Question.
So the original question was about restlessness and waking up in the morning, sometimes feeling a lack coming up and confusion along with it, wanting to know where I am fetter-wise and where I'm headed towards when it comes up.
The first thing, that sensation you can have of a lack is an assumption of a contraction in the body. So you need to slow down and zoom in. There's a sensory experience in the body that is happening, which is an ick. You don't want to stay with that ick. So you add a thought to it and saying, oh, this is lack. I have a feeling of lack. Let's talk about that. And then you keep searching on Googling and everything about a feeling of lack online to find a solution to it. You're diverting from the original ick that you feel in the body. We're not even talking about that. We're talking about lack, which is not a thing. So there's a sensory experience in the body that is icky. That is what we would like for you to stay with. So when you wake up in the morning and you have a sensory experience in the body and a thought saying this is a feeling of lack, detach that story about a feeling of lack and your childhood and your parents and school and what happened yesterday, and off with it, off. Stay with the sensory experience. How does it feel to be in a body right now? There's something going on that is so icky that you rather want to talk about lack. And that is why you do that. The same with confusion. I wake up and there's a sense and a feeling of confusion. No, there's not. There's a diversion that we call confusion. Put a label on and say this is confusion. Detach that and just stay with the sensory experience. Feel into the ick. What is that ick? How does that feel? Can you be in a body with that ick? And just sit with it. It's not supposed to go away. You're not supposed to create a new story about it. You're not supposed to do anything about it other than just sit with it. Just allow it to be there. You can move your body. You can stomp. You can dance. You can yell. You can roar. You can shake. You can pump. You can do whatever you want. The body wants you to do, to express, to feel and express that ick that is happening. And just allow it to be there. Welcome it. It's completely fine. Can you be in a body and just allow it to be?
Yeah, beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, usually results in being stuck in a mental storm that's constantly sighing at the paradoxical and becoming tired, which leads me back to the body, fortunately. Especially at night, I can feel an immense relaxation to what is already the case, allowing sensations to be just as they are. It's ironic I'm asking to do something about it. The lack of contentment usually comes when I'm with other people, which we talked about, a lot of push and pull and reactivity. There seems to be a desire to be peaceful, to deconstruct experience, and to progress.
And also, I just want to circle back to what we talked about before with the lack of contentment when you're with other people. So there's an assumption of what contentment feels like when you are with other people, and this is not it. That is just another story. This might exactly be what contentment with other people feels like, but it's just not what you want to feel when you're with other people. So look, contentment is just a label. It's just a concept. It's just something we have, invented. It's not real. So what is that actually? It's an ick in the body. Stay with the ick. We need a t-shirt that says stay with the ick.
That's good. And and also going back to what I was just saying about when you say, there seems to be a desire to be peaceful, to deconstruct experience, and to progress. Just see what is behind that drive to progress. what feels like it is here that is going to be changed in the future, what feels like it needs to escape this to make something better in the future, because something here, the only reason that we have this idea of progress, or to progress on a path, is because there's an idea that this is not satisfactory as it is. I need to change. I need to get better. I need to experience something else so that I can be happy and live my life for many decades to come.
The way I'm supposed to.
The way I'm supposed to. And so just be aware of, what is it now, where I am, without anything changing, that is so uncomfortable that I feel like I need to be on this spiritual quest for the next 30 years to be able to handle what is here.
Yeah.
Why is it a problem?
Yeah.
And see if it's really as daunting or unbearable as you think it might be. And can you just be with whatever is actually here, and then follow the threads if need be, doing the second fetter work to come to terms with or heal whatever is coming up that needs your attention and love in this moment. And then just see if you can be equanimous with whatever is here in this moment without needing it to be different, and without that ego gratification or whatever else is tied up in the spiritual path itself.
Beautiful. I like that.
All right.
I think that was it, even though we are fully charged now.
Yeah. Well, wonderful. And I was going to say, Debbie, I saw you said to please consider an audiobook on the poetry book. And thank you. Definitely.
Yes. Yeah. We are really toying and playing with different ideas, because some of them, as all of you know, Todd, he's amazing at writing. You know that from his inquiries. He's so amazing at writing. And the poems are, some of them are just like being stabbed in the solar plexus. Others are really, really funny, really, really humorous. And all of them are about mental health and how you go from, that non-linear path from anxiety, agoraphobia, depression, and all of that into awakening. It's really a wonderful, wonderful book.
Thank you. It's it's heavy.
It's a lot. It's a lot. It's not an easy read.
No,
it's not an easy read.
No, it's not a fun day at the beach.
No, it's not one of those Insta poetry.
No, it is not that either. No, but the idea is, I think.
Wow.
Oh,
Dahlia, thank you.
Oh my God!
So
thank you
much.
so much.
Thank you so much.
So kind.
Wow.
I am planning on.
I love dahlias in Sweden. That's amazing. Oh. Hey, my sister. That's amazing. Hey, Suran.
The idea is that there's going to be a print version, and then also I'm going to do some videos with the readings of it, and then probably eventually an audiobook of it, because I really like to read them.
Yeah, you guys can look forward. It's amazing.
Thanks, babe.
Thank you so much. It has been amazing. Remember that next week we have inquiry on Tuesday, and the link is already in Discord under the Friday Q&A. If you scroll back, the link for all of the Tuesday meetings are in there. Because it's the same link. So I think that's it.
All right.
And if there's anything that you want to ask us for the next Friday Q&A, then just write it in the Q&A thread, so we have the questions there.
And did anybody remember the name of that? Let me just 1 second, just for the sake of
the name of what?
The group for adverse effects for meditation.
There is a group that has for people that has negative effects of spirituality in whichever way it happens. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
I can't remember what it's called.
With a C.
But we can just when we find it, we put it in the Q&A, in the Friday Q&A thread on Discord.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm not finding it
No,
But yeah,
easily.
yeah, we'll get it for you. Okay. Sorry.
Thank you so much, you
Thanks,
guys.
everyone.
It has been absolutely enjoyable, and
Yep.
thank you all for the wonderful, wonderful donations. Thank you so much. It means so much. It helps so much. So thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone. Really
Thank you.
appreciate it. See you in a
Thank
few
you.
days.
See you next week. Yeah, on
Bye.
Tuesday.
Yeah.
It's shortly.
It is.
Yeah.
It's- yeah.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Okay.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. It's down there.